you give me a brief history of your yoga journey, like when you started, how you got involved with yoga, and what it brought you to where you are now?
Sure. Well, I really didn't expect to be teaching yoga at all, to tell you the truth. I mean, I had first done yoga as a teenager back in high school, and this was back in 1978. And I liked it, but I was into other sports more, and so I spent more time doing that. But I did do some yoga once in a while. But then I got way into martial arts and meditation and more of the sort of Chinese Eastern philosophy stuff for years. But then after a while, I began to feel like, I don't know, something shifted. After a while, I just thought this is all kind of about fighting ultimately, and that's just not my vibe, I don't think. And so I was in Australia. I used to be in advertising, and I was in Australia doing a year stint in an advertising agency there. A colleague of mine had asked me if I wanted to go to do a yoga class with him, and I thought, well, what the heck? Yeah, I haven't really done any formal yoga in quite some time. And I went to the class, and I just loved it. I just thought, this is so great. Where has this been all my life, kind of thing? And so I just kept going, and it was kind of ridiculous. I mean, I went to beginner, intermediate, advanced classes all in the same week. I mean, I had no idea what I was doing, really. It kind of changed my life after doing that for about 6 months. I had the good fortune to go to a big gathering for an Indian spiritual teacher named Amachi. She's often known as the hugging guru. And I didn't know anything about her, but some people from the studio had invited me to go. So I went, and long story short, I thought the whole thing was kind of strange. There was a lot of kirtan and singing, and I wasn't really used to all that at the time. But it completely, melted my brain. I had no idea what happened. At one point, I got really dizzy, and I got really hot, and I had to, leave the auditorium. And I went out in the park. I was like, what just happened to me? I guess just being in her presence kind of, I don't know, did something. But then I decided, advertising is not my thing. I need to get out of this. It's kind of the stress and the hours are killing me. And this is just much more what I'm about. And I just kind of went from there. I've been here in Tucson about 11 years or something and teaching at a place called Yoga Oasis. And it's really great going to other studios because, there's so many communities and they're usually so open to new stuff, and it's just so great to meet new people and offer them what I have, and I've just always had a very great experience with the workshops, especially. They're always a lot of fun.
Do you do the same type of workshops when you go different places, or is it always something different, or what's that like? Well,
I think it's always something different, but I think that I'll probably have a trend with what I'm teaching for a while, and then the focus will shift some. But what I teach ultimately, as far as alignment and some of the technical stuff is always the same, even though, again, I may be refining how I present it, or I may be talking about it in a slightly different way. But I think the workshop that we're doing is more on the energy body. I'm more on the chakras and the energy aspect of yoga, which for the last several years has been really interesting to me, because ultimately what you're doing with yoga practice is you're not only working with the physical body, but you're working with the energy, the life force in the body. And once you really understand that's what you're doing, it totally changes the physical practice as well as the mental, emotional, even the spiritual aspect of it. When you realize that prana, or the energy, the life force in the body is really what is at play here, it makes a tremendous shift in our perception of what we're doing, not only on the mat, but just in the rest of our life. I found it really transformative for myself, but for the people that, that I do workshops with, and we focus on that.
What initially drew you to that study of the chakras and the energy body? Was it just a practice, or was there something in particular that drew you to it?
As I said, I had been involved with martial arts for a long time, ever since I was a teenager, really. And the more I practiced that, the more I understood and heard that a lot of, again, what you're doing is working with energy. In martial arts, they call it chi or ki. And they use it for slightly different purposes, but it's the same idea. And, the last martial art that I really focused on was Aikido. and I'd been involved with Tai Chi before that, and both of those styles are really about moving energy in the body and using your energy to influence, your opponent. So I had a really pretty, a lot of exposure to the concept of that in martial arts. Now, when I first started doing yoga, I didn't realize that there was that component really, even though I think I must have intuited some aspect of that. So when I began to read more about it or have that introduced through my teachers more, it was something I already understood. And so the more I read about it in terms of how it was presented in yoga and how it was talked about in yoga, I just was fascinated by that. And so I've studied it quite thoroughly through Ayurveda and some classical texts as well. And I could but most importantly, I could feel it in my body. As I began to really focus on that aspect of it, I could feel that change. I could feel like that's really what. And so, and yoga has a lot of detail. They have a lot of detail in how they recognize and analyze and kind of break it down, specifically with the chakras in terms of our emotional, mental, and spiritual aspects. They've really got a very clear and broad understanding of how it permeates everything. And the more I study it, the more I realize how true that is. Mm-hmm. And so it's just become, I see asana as an aspect of working with that energy and a great tool for working with that energy. Because once we start to change the energy in the body through the asana, there's a ripple effect. It goes through everything. So it's, some of it's my personal experience that I've felt it. And when I've sort of communicate my teaching from that perspective, I find that people, there's usually a lot of ahas. There's usually a lot of, maybe they've even heard of it before. Maybe they haven't really they've read about it. They know what a chakra is, but they're not really, But then when you really start to understand what does that mean, and that you are experiencing it whether you know it or not, when you point out what they're experiencing in that context, then there's a really big shift and breakthroughs. I think it's pretty cool.
So is that the type of stuff that you'll be bringing to the workshops at Balance?
Well, we'll be doing a lot of asana because, hatha yoga is, you start with the body. It's because our body is what we interface the world through. And so it's our primary experience. So when you work through the body and begin to refine your understanding of the body and clear the body, then you can become more sensitive to the other aspects of prana or the energy in the body. And so we'll be doing a lot of asana. There'll also be a certain amount of pranayama because that's a huge shifter of prana or huge director of prana. And we'll be doing some guided meditation and some affirmations, all of these things, again, linking back to the chakras. Now, it's a pretty vast topic, so in one weekend, we can do kind of an overview of certain things, and certain things we can go in more detail with. But I think what I intend to do is, meet people where they are. And again, we'll be doing a lot of asana because that's what most of us are familiar with. And then we'll kind of bring into that an understanding perhaps from a slightly different perspective or again, a perspective of prana or internal energy. And then we'll just see how those things link together. They're all tools that bring you to the same place ultimately. And that's a place of more integration, of healing, of a deeper understanding of ourselves. So that's ultimately what yoga's about. It's about relationship. What's your relationship with yourself? And what's your relationship with your loved ones, your family? What's your relationship with your broader community? And then from there, what's your relationship with the world and your environment? And so that's ultimately what the teaching helps to bring is understand that we have choices in all these regards, and we have a time to reflect on what is our highest intentions, what are our highest intentions for ourselves, for our families, for our communities, for the environment, for our world. Mm-hmm. And when I can refine those intentions and really start to embody those, that's tremendously powerful. Then your life, the world happens through you, not to you. But yoga, like anything, yoga is not a magic formula. It's not like you do a few sun salutations and you chant a few mantras and your world's going to be bright and cheery. it's a lifelong commitment to, as I said, to healing, to refining ourselves, to refining our intentions, because our behavior, our thoughts, our actions are all predicated, are all based on our intentions. And if we're not clear about what those intentions are, then we're not going to be clear in our actions and how we interface with the world at all. It's just going to be very haphazard, and that's how most of us experience life. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't go so well. Sometimes we feel great, sometimes we don't, and most of the time we don't know why. And so we think it's outside. We think somehow if my circumstances were different, if the people around me would just be different, then I would be happy. Then I would feel fulfilled. Then I would feel strong and powerful and balanced. But ultimately, that has to come from us. And then when we tap into that, because, you can do tremendous amounts of asana practice and get very strong and be able to do very impressive things. But if you haven't really tapped into a deeper level, then ultimately, what's the point? So you become balanced, become strong, become centered, so that you can offer that out when you need it. When other people around you are not strong and centered and balanced, you can be there for them. When people need to have a grounded voice in their life, you can be that for them. So that seems to be the point of being able to do all these, what I now call circus tricks. But I say this a lot. You can be able to do 108 sun salutations. You can be able to stand on your hands and bring your feet to your head. You could do all those and still be making chaos in your life and make chaos for other people. You could still not be happy. So as we take the experience, we take the ultimate gift that offers us, then those things make sense. Then those things are worth pursuing. Otherwise, they're just, as I said, they're just circus tricks. I mean, they're still fun. I still like doing them,
Yeah.
But there's a deeper reason for it. And the cool thing is as you start to refine your energy, as you understand what's going on with you and your chakras and all the rest. Chakras are just kind of a metaphor for emotionally, spiritually, psychologically what's going on with us. All that stuff gets easier to do, too. It's kind of cool. So all the things that took so much effort, took so much practice, you can just kind of do them because your energy's not blocked anymore. Then your poses become pranic. Your whole life becomes moving from prana, moving from life force, rather than just all push and effort.
So what would you say that you enjoy most about teaching?
What I think is personally so fulfilling is that I know that this practice can heal. I know this has a positive, transformative power on all levels. And I get to see that happen over and over and over again with people who maybe don't always feel so good about themselves, don't feel so good about their situation, are really sort of hesitant about their lives. And you start to see them change and grow and shift and open up and feel empowered. When you start to see that, that's a huge gift. That's very cool. And you just see communities forming. People come into this room, and there might be 10, 20, 30, 40 people in the room. Just depends. They might have this group of people. And when you practice together, it forms a connection. Even if the person on the other side of the room didn't lay eyes on someone in the other corner, by practicing together, by moving your energy together, by breathing together, you've got a connection there. And I think people feel that. And I think that's one of the reasons why yoga has become so popular, because it's a very positive communal experience. And when you intensely create community, then that experience is even more powerful. Great energy that connects people in such a short time, that's pretty rewarding. I think it's cool to be able to offer that.
Do you have anything else you'd like to leave with, or any parting words? Anything else that sticks out in your mind?
I'm really psyched to be coming, and I do hope that what I have to offer is something that people can connect with. It usually is, and
I think it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. I plan on being there. So.
All right, Nicole. Well, that's good. I'm looking forward to meet you guys and Andy and Donna and.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Well, thank you for taking the time to chat with me and taking the time out of your day, and I appreciate it.
Certainly, my pleasure. So good to have.
All right. Well, talk to you soon, Bruce.
Bye-bye, Nicole.